came a long way from St. Louis. You climbed the ladder of success. I've seen the flashy foreign cars that were parked out in front of your fancy address. You came a long way from St. Louis. You broke a lot of hearts between. Thank you, Perry Como, and thank you, YouTube, those of you in the YouTube audience, for finding us on the internet. You only got a couple of million, at least, alternatives. We'll try to earn our airtime here at WBQS News Talk Radio. It's the Radioactive Take with me, Brian Stipe, a longtime commercial news talker on the radio. And yeah, I'd rather be on the radio, but this is a lot of fun too, and we're delighted to have you out there. The news, well, certainly once the picture hit the airwaves, the mugshot, that's all anybody's been talking about this afternoon into the evening here, and I guess all night long on talk radio and everywhere else in the culture. Most famous, already the most famous mugshot perhaps in history. Maybe Lee Harvey Oswald would be the only other one as already as familiar to the American public as this one. What an expression. A lot of different things people are saying about it, and you can find them in all of the coverage. But I'd rather talk this edition for the 24th of August, 2023, this Thursday night edition of the Radioactive Take. I'd rather talk about this guy, well, his song in particular. The guy is Oliver Anthony, and the song is Men North of Richmond. Richmond as in Virginia, capital of the Confederacy for most of the Civil War. Started out in Montgomery there, where Rosa Parks did her thing famously on that Thursday. Another Thursday it was when Rosa Parks on the bus there in Montgomery entered American history. And then later, when I was on the radio up at WJR Detroit, she was living up there. They gave her a real nice condo and a real fancy riverfront building. And I never got to meet her. But I'd like to think she was listening to Open Lines for Open Minds with Brian Stiber over the superstation WJR Detroit, flagship station of the American Broadcasting Company. Those were the days. That was the mid-'90s, doing the overnight show. But here we're doing a narrowcast over YouTube and trying to have some fun in the process. Anyway, this fellow, Oliver Anthony, they don't know a lot about him. He's obviously, and I think declared to be from Appalachia, but they're not necessarily sure where. They're not necessarily sure how old he is. He's about 30, but he's a sensation. Number one song without even having a label behind him. And that song, of course, is Men North of Richmond. Richmond as in Virginia. And about 100 miles north, he sings about these guys. I guess he's probably targeting Biden. Here are the lyrics, if you haven't heard them yet. I mean, you may have even seen him perform on that dobro. You may have seen him perform a verse or two of it, but have you actually gone through the lyrics in detail? Well, we're going to do that here on the Radioactive Take. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for lousy pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home, and drown my troubles away. It's a crying shame what the world's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an old soul. These rich men north of Richmond. Lord knows they all just want to have control. They want to know what you think, want to know what you do. And they don't think, you know, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't worth nothing and it's taxed to no end 'cause of rich men north of Richmond. Lord, we got folks in the street got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Young men are putting themselves 6 feet in the ground 'cause of all this dang country does is just keep kicking them down. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for lousy pay. That's Oliver Anthony. Song big time on the country charts, and I believe even the pop charts. I don't know. I haven't seen Billboard yet. Do they even publish the print version of Billboard still? Well, I should know. I'm on WBQS News Talk Radio here, but I don't happen to know that. But I know that Gary Varvel, I believe that's how it's pronounced, is the most talented political cartoonist in America. He works out of Richmond. Excuse me. No, that's Oliver Anthony singing about Richmond. Well, it's another state capital. That would be Indianapolis. That's where he works out of, Gary Varvel. And, I mean, there's a lot of nuance involved in being a caricaturist, at least a good one. And he isn't a good one. He's the best, I think, hands down. And this is how he's portraying Biden singing with a dobro there, the resonator guitar. This is how Gary Varvel writes the lyrics for Joe Biden's version of Rich Man North of Richmond. I've been selling influence for personal gain, overseas trips on a government plane. Been taking bribes from China and Ukraine, then launder the cash while my son does cocaine. It's the Biden way to make lots of dough, and the FBI, they don't want to know. I can always depend on my powerful friends because I'm a rich man north of Richmond. So that's President Biden in parody. And I'm Brian Steibel over at WBQS News Talk Radio. If you want to send us some email and correct any factual errors we might make, Radioactive Seattle at gmail.com. RadioactiveSeattle at gmail.com. It's simple. Anyway. Also wanted to find some time on this narrowcast, this edition of the Radioactive Take, to talk about life. Not necessarily intelligent life, but life elsewhere in the universe, and maybe as close as some neighboring planets, like Venus. What prompted this is an interview the Sun did, the U.S. Sun. It's a British operation, but they've got a U.S. website, and a lot of their reporting is reliable. Under the headline, a NASA scientist has revealed that she's absolutely certain there's alien life out there. And that sounds like an exaggeration or imprecise wording, but it's not, because you can't read between the lines here, but you can listen between the lines. She thinks it's absolute, and she's as much saying so in these words. I'm talking about Dr. Michelle Thaler. I've been watching her for years, and you have too if you've got NASA TV, but she's in a lot of different places around the cable universe, and she's one of the best at explaining all of the various initiatives that NASA is doing apart from manned exploration. And Dr. Michelle Thaler works as a scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center and has decades of experience. I definitely think we'll find life on another planet, she says. I think that in our own solar system, we're quite close to it, but once again, we don't have that 100% thing. On Mars, we see chemistry that if on Earth, we would say is definitely due to life. But the question is, how well do we understand Mars, and are we being fooled by something? So Mars, she's not certain about. But wait till she starts talking about Venus. Dr. Thaler spoke at Beyond the Light, an exhibition at Art Echo House in New York that aims to immerse the public in a deep space exploration experience. Dr. Thaler thinks that life is probably pretty close to home here on Earth. We see possible signs of life in the atmosphere of Venus, possibly underneath the ice in the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, she says additionally, but she's most concerned about Venus. The solar system may be teeming with simple life, microbial life. We just have to get that 100% certainty to say that we found it, and we don't have that yet. Venus is a hostile and dry planet, kill you instantly, they report, and that's accurate. Every time we sent a probe, or the Russians did more on Venus during the space race than we did. We were focused on Mars. They were focused on the Soviets in those days. We're focused on Venus, and they even got a lander, more than one lander, but only one survived for a few minutes, and there is one color photograph of the surface of Venus, and it's on the internet, on a competing channel. It isn't on WBQS, News Talk Radio, which is a radio anyway, so you couldn't see it. But you can see it if you look for it on Wikipedia. But anyway, what Dr. Thaler says is, I never expected it for Venus. Venus is now one where we see something in the atmosphere that looks very much like it could be produced by bacteria. She is certain that we will find life and thinks it's just a matter of when. It's only a matter of time until we have proof that it's in the solar system, our solar system, nearby, ladies and gentlemen. But that's the thing. We're waiting to announce, she means. We're waiting until there's nothing else it could possibly be. Because can you imagine the kind of trouble we'd get in? Well, obviously, and it's smart for them to be very, 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 very prudent, and they're being that way. We don't have absolute proof yet, she says. Do I think there's life out there? Absolutely. That is encouraging news here on the Radioactive Take. That'll do it for me. I'm Brian Steibel, and we'd be very flattered if you subscribe, maybe even give us a like button if you like what we're doing. If you don't like what we're doing, tell us at radioactiveseattle@gmail.com. We'll do it again tomorrow. This is a Monday through Friday thing, and we hope you're in the audience for that one. In the meantime, we're grateful for this. And we offer you a left-handed salute from Florida. See you tomorrow.